Hello, Ross here. Today we are in the second tutorial of the series where we are covering the FW app system. Now, firstly, what you see here is an FW app. You can tell that it's different from a normal app, say if we go into database checks, because our new apps have a styling very similar to this with the black bar up here, the new boxes, and this app switcher up here. The FW app system is quite like a smartphone, actually. Apps are the main focus in both cases. You install apps on an FW installation like a phone. In this case, we use Bitbucket as our app store. So we could go over to Bitbucket, go ahead and log in there. And you can see that we have a bunch of apps here like Checklist, which we were just looking at. This is like your app store of the FW app system. Like a smartphone, a settings app is required for the operation of many of these apps. For example, say you need to change the amount of data that's being used by a specific app. In that case, you would go into your settings app. For us, Group Control is our settings app that we use. And there it is right there. So as you can see, a smartphone is very similar in the sense of unified apps as to the FW app system. Now, an essential part to understand about these apps is that they're basically in two parts. Within the app, you have the client side, which is everything the client sees. Before you're a programmer, that's basically all you get to see is the client side. And this allows users to safely interact with the data without causing any harm. However, there's another side to the apps, and that is the server side. On the server side, that has to do with the database tables and the rules that we have set for interacting with such data. So because we're using Tally in this example, we're going to go check out the server side and the client side for Tally in Bitbucket here. So go ahead and open up the Tally app. And here you can go to Source. And what do you know? Right there, two of the major folders within the main directory of the app are the client and server folders. This is where you're going to be doing the bulk of your work for programming. So if you go ahead and take a look within the client folder, you can actually find that this is where all the code, or HBS, is used to display all the data. So like here we have points, as you can see right there. We have like admin tools, login, enter point cards, which is all on the client side because the users can see that. The server side, however, is quite different. A normal user should not know really what's going on with the server side. It should just all work pretty seamlessly. So in the server side, it basically allows us to interact with the databases that we have here. So if we go ahead and look at the server side document, you could see that we have a table here. And in what's called a database migration, which we'll go into a lot of depth with, you could find this table here and the rules that define it. And it looks like this one is, which one is that? Ah, here we are. So this one is Tally user we're looking at. And interestingly, if you take a look at your database, you'll find that the tables that are defined within the code here in what's called a migration file are the same tables that are in the database with all the same fields. That is because what this migration file is actually doing is that when you run this, it generates the code that will execute to build these tables. So that is how we define our database. And you could find that in the data folder is everything to do with the database, as you can see right here. However, in the source folder, which is the other folder we're going to work with, we basically work within exclusively data and source on the server side. You could find our controllers and models. Now this is a bit more abstract, but this contains a bunch of methods that are used to access the data. So you could see that we can do browse, read, edit, add, and delete right here in this file. And that will be covered in the next tutorial under bread methods.